Earth had always been a peaceful planet, a thriving world of life, culture, and progress. Yet that peace was about to be shattered by a force no one could have ever imagined. The skies above Earth darkened one fateful morning as a fleet of alien ships appeared out of nowhere, hovering ominously in the atmosphere. These ships were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, huge, sleek, and radiating an advanced energy that made human technology look primitive by comparison. As the world watched in awe and fear, the first broadcast came through. It wasn't a greeting, nor a plea for peace. Instead, it was a simple, terrifying message: "Don't touch humans." The voice came from a deep, mechanical tone, echoing through every communication device on Earth. It was cold, commanding, and left no room for negotiation. The aliens, a race called the Xilarians, had made their presence known, and they weren't here to negotiate. They declared humanity weak, beneath them, and in their eyes, Earth's civilizations were nothing more than a joke. They mocked every achievement humans had worked so hard to achieve over millennia. Technology, culture, and progress, all of it was dismissed as irrelevant. The Xilarians saw themselves as the superior race, the rulers of the galaxy, and Earth was just another insignificant planet in their path. The message they sent wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration of war. They promised humanity's complete destruction unless the people of Earth complied with their demands, which were still unknown. As the fear spread across the globe, Earth's defense systems were immediately put on high alert, but no one truly understood what they were facing. In the midst of this chaos stood Alex Walker, a military officer in the Earth Defense Fleet. Tall, fit, and undeniably handsome, Alex was used to the quiet, organized life of a defense officer. His job was to train soldiers, oversee missions, and ensure Earth was prepared for any minor threats that might arise. But nothing had prepared him for this. Alex sat in the war room of Earth's Central Command as the alien fleet appeared on radar. The cold, calm exterior he showed to his team hid the rising panic inside him. This wasn't just another simulation. This wasn't just another drill. This was real, and for the first time in his career, Alex realized how vulnerable humanity really was. "Sir, we're picking up strange signals from the Xilarians," his lieutenant, Sarah Miller, said as she stood beside him, monitoring the radar. "They're not responding to our hails. No communication other than the message we received earlier." Alex's jaw tightened as he glanced at the massive digital screen in front of him, displaying the alien ships now in Earth's orbit. The Xilarians had come in force, at least 30 ships, each larger than any military vessel Earth had ever built. They were surrounded by a fleet of smaller drones, darting through the atmosphere with eerie precision. "They're mocking us," Alex muttered, almost to himself. No warning, no attempt at diplomacy, just dominance. Sarah gave him a sharp look, sensing the concern in his voice. "What should we do, sir?" Alex exhaled slowly, thinking about the implications of the situation. The Earth Defense Fleet had been prepared for rogue nations, natural disasters, and small-scale alien incursions, but nothing like this. The Xilarians weren't just invaders. They were conquerors, and they were more advanced than anything Earth had encountered. "What we do is wait. We don't know what they want yet, but we need to prepare for the worst," Alex said firmly. His eyes remained glued to the screen, watching as the alien ships formed a perfect blockade around Earth. Their presence alone was enough to send a shiver down his spine. The fleet was massive, overwhelming, and if they chose to attack, humanity would have little chance. The tension in the war room was thick. Commanders from around the globe had gathered, sharing data and analyzing every piece of information they could find. But there was no clear answer to the question on everyone's mind. Why were the Xilarians here? And then the answer came. Another message flashed across the communications screen, this time directed to the leaders of the world. The words were simple, but the implications were chilling. The Xilarians didn't care about negotiations, and they certainly didn't care about human life. They were here to establish their dominance, and they had made their intentions clear. Humanity's future is already sealed. You are weak. Your world is insignificant. Unless you comply, Earth will be destroyed. The message was sent in every language, ensuring that no one could misunderstand it. It wasn't just a threat. It was an ultimatum. The Xalarians were offering nothing but destruction unless humanity gave in to their demands, whatever those might be. For a moment, there was silence. The leaders of Earth, Alex included, exchanged uneasy glances. No one had the answers. No one had the power to respond to such an overwhelming force. "We need to respond," Alex said, his voice steady but laced with an undeniable edge of fear. "We can't just sit here and let them dictate our fate. We don't even know what they want, sir," Sarah reminded him, her voice calm but filled with concern. "If we fight, we could destroy everything." Alex clenched his fists. He knew she was right. Earth didn't stand a chance against such a technologically advanced empire. The Xalarians had the power to wipe out humanity with a single strike. But doing nothing meant giving in to their demands without a fight. The idea of surrendering was not something Alex could accept. "They want us to submit," Alex said, eyes narrowing with determination. "But we're not going down without a fight. We'll need every resource we have. And we'll need to think smarter than they expect. It's the only way we'll survive." A chill ran through the room as Alex's words settled in. The alien fleet was vast, their technology far beyond what humanity could ever hope to match. Yet, Alex knew one thing. Humans had something the Xalarians didn't, a fierce will to survive. As Alex prepared to make the first move, the world held its breath. The fate of humanity was about to be decided, and no one knew how it would end. Would Earth fight back against these invaders, or would the Xalarians' threat prove to be more than humanity could handle? The suspense was unbearable, and the question on everyone's mind was whether Earth would comply or rise up against their oppressors. Alex looked once more at the ships hovering above Earth. He could feel the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. This was not just about defending a planet. This was about defending everything humanity stood for, and he wasn't going to let it slip away without a fight. The countdown to Earth's fate had begun, and the clock was ticking. The air around Earth had been thick with tension for days, and every passing moment felt like it could be the last. As the Xalarian fleet hovered menacingly in orbit, humanity's leaders scrambled to prepare for what they all knew was coming. War. Earth's defense systems were on high alert, and every military base around the world was mobilized. Alex Walker, aboard the Earth Defense Fleet's flagship, Aurora, was at the heart of it all. The human fleet was ready, or so they thought. As Alex stood at the helm of the flagship, staring at the screen showing the Xalarian ships, a deep feeling of unease gnawed at him. He had been trained for this moment, but nothing could have prepared him for the sheer scale of the enemy they were facing. His thoughts were interrupted when the communication panel blared to life. "This is General Hightower. The Xalarians have begun their assault. We need all fleets ready for immediate engagement." The voice crackled through the speakers. A wave of urgency washed over Alex, and he turned to his team. "You heard the General. Let's move." The order was clear. They were going to fight, no matter the odds. Alex's heart raced as he thought about the unimaginable power the Xalarians had at their disposal. They weren't just invaders. They were conquerors, with weapons far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. Yet, they had no choice but to face them head-on. The first blast came without warning. A bright beam of light shot down from the Xalarian fleet, hitting one of Earth's defense satellites. The satellite disintegrated in an instant, a burst of flame and debris scattering across space. Alex's team watched, horrified. The Xalarians had launched a direct strike with an energy weapon that had completely obliterated the satellite with ease. "Report," Alex barked. "Sir, the defense grid is down. "We've lost contact with the Eastern and Southern fleets," his lieutenant, Sarah, replied, her voice shaky but determined. "The Accelerians are using a weapon that short-circuits our defense systems." Alex clenched his fists, trying to steady his nerves. This was far worse than anyone had imagined. The Accelerians weren't just using advanced technology. They were using weapons designed specifically to cripple Earth's defenses in one swift strike. "We've lost most of our defenses," Sarah continued, her face pale as she studied the screen in front of her. "We're completely exposed." The gravity of the situation hit Alex like a punch to the gut. They had no time left. The enemy was on the attack, and they had to act fast or risk losing everything. But as he looked around the war room, Alex saw the determination in his team's eyes. They were scared, but they weren't giving up. "We'll use our resourcefulness," Alex said, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts racing through his mind. "We may not have their technology, but we have something they don't: our ability to adapt. We fight with everything we've got." The fleet moved into position, and the first skirmish began. Solarian ships unleashed wave after wave of energy blasts, and Earth's ships fought back with everything they had. The clash was fierce, with explosions lighting up the darkness of space and debris from destroyed ships scattered across the battlefield. Alex's flagship Aurora fired its weapons, dodging blasts from the Accelerians. The human fleet may have been outclassed technologically, but they weren't going down without a fight. Alex directed his ship into the fray, coordinating his team to use their limited resources in the most effective way possible. They launched a daring counterattack, using makeshift cloaking technology to avoid detection by the Accelerians' advanced sensors. "Sarah, prepare the countermeasures," Alex ordered as the Aurora veered dangerously close to one of the Accelerian destroyers. Sarah nodded, quickly activating the systems. They had only a few moments before they were detected again. The cloaking devices they were using were rudimentary at best, and the Accelerians' superior technology could see through them in a heartbeat. "Ready, sir," Sarah called out. She looked determined, despite the danger surrounding them. Alex could see the stress in her eyes, but also something else: courage. Her eyes reminded him of why they were fighting: to survive, to protect the people they loved. The weight of that responsibility was heavy, but it was a responsibility Alex was determined to shoulder. As the Aurora fired another round of missiles at a Solarian destroyer, the sudden impact sent a shockwave through the ship. Alex's grip tightened on the controls as the ship rattled under the force of the blast. Their counterattack had made a dent, but it wasn't enough. The Accelerians weren't backing down. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the Aurora. The screen in front of Alex showed the Accelerian ships closing in, their energy weapons charging up for another round of devastating strikes. "Brace for impact," Alex shouted. Before anyone could react, a massive explosion rocked the ship. The Aurora lurched violently to the side, throwing everyone off balance. Alex was thrown forward, crashing against the console. His vision blurred as sparks flew around him, and the ship's systems flickered. "Status report," Alex barked, trying to steady himself. He could feel the ship's hull groaning under the damage. They had been hit hard. "We've lost power to the starboard engine," Sarah shouted over the noise. "Hull integrity is failing. We're losing atmosphere in sections." "Damn it," Alex muttered under his breath. The Aurora was taking on water, metaphorically speaking, and they didn't have much time left. As chaos erupted around them, Alex's heart pounded. This wasn't just a battle for Earth. This was a battle for survival. He couldn't afford to let his people die. He couldn't let Sarah die. "Sarah, we're going to have to abandon ship," Alex said, his voice urgent. "Get the escape pods ready. Now." Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "Sir, we can't just leave. The fleet needs us." "Listen to me," Alex ordered, his voice growing more intense. "We won't be able to win this fight if we're all dead. You need to get to the escape pods now." For a moment, Sarah hesitated, but the realization hit her. Alex wasn't just a commander. He was a leader. And right now, the lives of his crew depended on his decisions. "Understood, sir," Sarah said, her voice steady now. "I'll make sure everyone gets out." Alex watched as Sarah and the rest of the crew began evacuating. He stayed behind, coordinating the final escape, his heart heavy with the weight of the situation. The Aurora was sinking, but the fight wasn't over. It couldn't be. As the last of the crew members boarded the escape pods, Alex took one final look at the bridge. He didn't know if he'd make it out alive, but one thing was certain. He would fight until the very end. The fate of Earth rested on their survival, and no alien invader would take that from them. With a deep breath, Alex activated the escape pod and launched into the unknown, watching as the Aurora, the symbol of humanity's defense, was torn apart by another blast from the Xilarians. The first strike had been devastating, but it wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Alex's escape from the Aurora had been nothing short of harrowing. With the ship's hull failing and the Xilarians closing in, the crew had been forced to abandon their posts and evacuate. Now, in the aftermath, they floated in the vast emptiness of space, unsure of what awaited them. The Earth's defense systems had been crippled, and humanity's fate seemed more uncertain than ever. Alex sat in the cramped cockpit of his escape pod, staring out into the void. The small metallic ship was now on a collision course with the remains of Earth's defense fleet, the wreckage of their ships scattered around them like the broken bones of giants. The weight of failure pressed heavily on his chest. They were supposed to be the last line of defense, and yet they had been overwhelmed in a matter of hours. His communicator beeped, breaking the silence. "Alex, it's Sarah. We've managed to gather as many survivors as possible. We're in one of the secure pods, but we're stranded. We don't have enough fuel to get back to Earth. What's our next move?" Her voice sounded grim, but he could hear the determination in it. He exhaled deeply, trying to formulate a plan. There was no clear path ahead, and yet he couldn't afford to give up. Humanity had to survive. Before Alex could respond, another voice crackled through his comm system, one he didn't recognize. "Alex Walker, commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Do not be alarmed. We come in peace." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He looked at the screen, his hand hovering over the controls. Who could this be? It wasn't Earth Command, nor was it anyone from his fleet. He had heard of the many alien species across the galaxy, but none who would be reaching out to humanity at this point in their war against the Xilarians. "We are the Viridians," the voice continued. "We have watched your struggle, and we have a proposition. The Xilarians have oppressed our people for centuries. We have no love for them, and we offer you an alliance in exchange for refuge on your planet." Alex's mind raced. An alien faction offering an alliance. He had heard whispers about the Viridians before, an outcast race of aliens, believed to be scattered and fractured after their own war with the Xilarians. But why would they reach out to humans now, after all that had happened? He thought of his crew, of the survivors, and of Sarah. They couldn't afford to reject any chance of help, not with the Xilarians breathing down their necks. But could they really trust these Viridians? Would accepting their aid just put them under another alien rule? He needed more information. "Why should we trust you?" Alex asked, his voice cold but steady. "The Xilarians have wiped out our worlds," the voice responded, a note of bitterness threading through their words. "We have no love for them. You, humans, are different. You fight for survival, for your people. We admire that. If you offer us refuge on your world, we will help you destroy the Xilarians' flagship. It is your only chance of survival." Alex's pulse quickened. This was a chance, perhaps the only chance. But trusting an alien species after everything they had just gone through was risky. Could they afford to take that risk? Alex thought about Sarah and the others. The fight for Earth wasn't just about survival, it was about hope. Maybe the Viridians could provide that. but only if they could defeat the Xelarians. "We'll take your help," Alex said after a long pause. "But we need full cooperation. You'll provide everything you have. And in return, we'll give you the protection you seek." The Viridian voice hummed with satisfaction. "Agreed. We will provide you with our fleet, cloaking technology, and weapons. Meet us at the designated coordinates, and together we will strike the Xelarians." The line went silent, and Alex leaned back in his seat, his heart still pounding. He had made the decision, but now the consequences of that choice were about to unfold. If the Viridians were lying, or if their assistance wasn't enough, it could be their doom. As the escape pod traveled toward the coordinates provided by the Viridians, Alex's mind was elsewhere. His thoughts were with Sarah, the young recruit who had shown such courage under fire, who had grown so much in such a short time, and whose strength had kept him going when he had felt like giving up. There was something more between them, something he had tried to ignore. But in this moment of chaos, their bond had only grown deeper. Sarah had been by his side through it all. Her calm, her unshakable determination, had helped him keep it together when everything seemed to be falling apart. As they prepared for the next step, Alex knew he could count on her. And for the first time in a long while, he realized that she wasn't just his comrade. She had become his rock. His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden jolt as the escape pod shook. "We're almost there." Sarah's voice came through his comm. "You're not alone in this, Alex. Whatever happens, we'll fight together." Her words soothed his nerves. She was right. No matter what, they were in this together. The coordinates led them to a dark patch of space, a region far from Earth, hidden among the shadows of distant moons. Here, a Viridian fleet waited, a collection of sleek, dark ships that seemed to blend seamlessly with the darkness of space. They were nothing like the Xelarians' massive, menacing ships. These were agile, stealthy, perfect for a surprise attack. The Viridians were waiting for them. Their ships were equipped with advanced cloaking devices, allowing them to approach the Xelarian flagship undetected. As the two fleets, human and Viridian, prepared to strike, Alex felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. They were about to take the fight directly to the Xelarians, and there was no turning back now. The Viridians sent over their plans for the attack. A coordinated strike on the Xelarian flagship aimed at disabling their command systems. It was a risky plan, but it was the only one they had. "We hit them hard and fast," Alex said, rallying his crew. "The Viridians have given us a fighting chance, but we need to make it count. We've got one shot at this." The human and Viridian fleets merged, their ships moving in perfect harmony. Alex's heart raced as the countdown to the attack began. He could feel the tension in the air, could almost taste the uncertainty that gripped him. This was it, the final assault that would determine the fate of humanity. As they approached the Xelarian flagship, Alex glanced at Sarah. She was focused, her eyes locked on the task at hand. But Alex saw something more, something that had grown between them over the past few days. A connection, forged in the fires of battle, stronger than anything they could have imagined. This mission, their fight, was no longer just about survival. It was about each other. The clock was ticking. The attack was imminent. And then, without warning, the Viridians unleashed their cloaking technology, their ships vanishing from sight as they prepared to launch their strike. The Xelarians never saw it coming. With a deep breath, Alex gave the order. "Go." In the depths of space, the battle for Earth was about to change forever. And no matter the outcome, Alex knew that this fight had brought him and Sarah closer than ever before. They were no longer just soldiers. They were partners, bound by their shared purpose, and by something more. The final assault had begun. After months of preparation, the moment had finally arrived. The united forces of humanity and their Viridian allies stood together in the cold, unfeeling expanse of space, ready to take on the Xelarians in a battle that would decide the fate of Earth and its people. Alex, commanding the charge, felt the weight of the moment on his shoulders. This wasn't just another battle. It was the culmination of everything humanity had fought for. As the fleets prepared to engage, the silence of space was shattered by the sound of engines roaring to life. Humanity's fleet, though small compared to the vast Silurian forces, had one thing the aliens lacked: resourcefulness. They may not have had the advanced technology of their enemies, but they had the will to fight. And in this moment, that was enough. Alex's ship, the Vanguard, cut through the darkness, its sleek hull gleaming in the starlight. His crew, battle-worn but determined, worked together as one, preparing for the oncoming clash. His thoughts, however, were on Sarah. She had been by his side from the very beginning. Her bravery and commitment to the cause an inspiration to everyone around her. Her quiet strength had always kept him grounded. But now, as they neared the Silurian flagship, he could feel the weight of the final push bearing down on them. This was the endgame. If they lost this battle, there would be no Earth to save. "Ready, Commander," his communications officer said, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "Lock on to their defenses," Alex commanded. "We hit them hard. We show them what humanity can do." As the fleets collided, explosions lit up the void. The Exilarian ships, massive and imposing, unleashed their devastating firepower, but humanity's fleet fought back with an unexpected ferocity. Despite their technological disadvantage, the human ships used agility and clever tactics to overwhelm the Exilarians. For every blow the enemy dealt, humanity responded with a blow of their own. It was a fight of desperation and defiance. Every ship, every soldier was fighting for something greater than themselves. Alex led the charge, his ship moving in sync with the Viridians. They had provided humanity with the advantage of stealth technology, allowing them to infiltrate the Exilarian lines with surprising effectiveness. The Viridians' advanced cloaking devices and their sleek, deadly ships were proving to be the perfect counter to the Exilarian behemoths. The battle raged on, the space around them becoming a chaotic sea of fire and destruction. Humanity's ingenuity was on full display as they used every trick in their arsenal, from electromagnetic pulses that temporarily disabled the Exilarian ship systems to daring dogfights in the heart of enemy formations. The Exilarians, for the first time in their history, were on the defensive. But just as it seemed humanity might win, the situation took a dark turn. A massive Exilarian warship, the Vengeance, emerged from the chaos. It was unlike anything Alex had seen before. Its hull was reinforced with alien alloys, and on its top, a massive cannon glowed ominously, a weapon that seemed capable of destroying entire planets. It was the Exilarians' last-ditch effort to stop humanity from ever threatening their rule again. The weapon, if activated, would wipe out all life on Earth in a single blast. Alex's heart raced. This was no longer just a fight for victory. It was a race against time to save Earth from total annihilation. The Vengeance fired its superweapon, and for a moment, the entire battlefield froze. The beam of energy shot towards Earth, a deadly force that could end everything in an instant. "We have to stop it," Alex muttered to himself, his mind racing as he scanned the battlefield. The Exilarians' superweapon was their last, desperate play. If they failed, humanity would be wiped from existence, and nothing would remain but the ashes of a lost war. "Commander, we've identified the weapon's power source," his tactical officer said urgently. "It's located deep inside the Vengeance. If we destroy it, we can disable the superweapon." Alex clenched his fists, making a snap decision. "Prepare for boarding action. We're going in." The Viridian fleet gave them cover as Alex's ship hurtled toward the Vengeance, dodging fire from the Exilarian forces as they tried to protect their flagship. The closer they got, the more Alex could feel the weight of the situation. This was it, the final stand. But as they neared the enemy ship, the worst possible scenario unfolded. A message came through his comms, one that froze him in place. "Commander Walker," Sarah's voice came through the static, breathless and filled with urgency. "We're on the front lines. The Viridians need help. We got incoming waves of Silurian reinforcements, and we can't hold them off much longer. Sarah, no, Alex said, his heart pounding. You need to fall back. Get to safety. But Sarah's voice remained determined. We can't. Alex, this is the last chance. We fight or we die. Alex knew that they couldn't afford to lose Sarah, but there was no time to argue. They had a job to do. The future of Earth depended on them. Hold the line, he said, his voice hard with resolve. We'll finish this. As the Vanguard collided with the Vengeance, Alex's crew went to work, boarding the massive ship with the intent to destroy the superweapon. The inside of the Vengeance was like nothing Alex had ever seen. Alien architecture, cold and unfeeling, filled with traps and enemies at every turn. But nothing could stop Alex now. The closer they got to the heart of the ship, the more he realized that the final decision was in his hands. The superweapon had to be destroyed before it could fire again. And time was running out. As Alex and his team fought their way through the enemy corridors, they finally reached the power core. But just as he prepared to plant the charge that would disable the weapon, a loud explosion rocked the ship, sending Alex sprawling to the ground. He looked up to see Sarah, bloody but alive, standing between him and the enemy forces. Go, she shouted. I'll hold them off. You have to finish this. No, Sarah, Alex shouted, rushing towards her. But Sarah pushed him back, her eyes filled with a fierce determination. You have to save Earth. Do it for all of us. Alex hesitated, his heart breaking, but he knew what he had to do. He planted the charge on the power core, setting the timer to 5 minutes. He turned to Sarah, but she was already holding off the Silurians, buying him precious seconds. With a final look, Alex ran back to the exit, barely escaping the massive explosion as the Vengeance began to fall apart. The superweapon was no longer a threat, and Earth had been saved. But at what cost? As the battle ended and the dust settled, Alex stood among the wreckage of the Silurian flagship. The loss of Sarah weighed heavily on him. She had given everything, and now all he could do was honor her sacrifice. We did it, one of his officers said, his voice hoarse. But Alex could barely hear him. All he could think about was Sarah, and the incredible bravery that had saved humanity. He had led them to victory, but it was her courage that had truly made the difference. And as he looked out into the stars, Alex made a silent vow. The war was over, but the fight for humanity's future had just begun. The final battle was over. The remnants of the Silurian fleet were scattered across space, their once mighty ships now reduced to debris. Earth was safe. The superweapon, a force capable of destroying entire planets, lay in ruins, dismantled by the bravery and ingenuity of humanity and their unexpected allies, the Viridians. Yet, as much as victory had been achieved, the cost was high. Alex stood on the barren surface of the command center, looking out at the stars, the weight of the victory feeling heavier than the loss. The once promising light of Earth's future now seemed dimmed by the shadow of his loss. Sarah, brave, fearless Sarah, was gone. The sacrifice she had made to save him, and by extension the entire planet, echoed in his mind with every passing moment. She had been more than just a comrade in arms. She had been a friend, a beacon of light when everything seemed impossible. And now she was gone. The price of victory, Alex realized, was never without its scars. As the dust settled on Earth's defense fleets and the surviving Viridian ships began to dock with their human counterparts, Alex couldn't shake the image of Sarah standing between him and the enemy forces. Her face, determined and resolute, haunted his thoughts. The explosion that had torn through the Vengeance was not just a blast of energy. It was the destruction of all the lives that had been lost in this war. And among those lives, Sarah's was the brightest star, snuffed out in an instant. The return to Earth was bittersweet. Alex had expected celebration, parades, a hero's welcome. And yet, when he stepped off the shuttle onto Earth's soil, there were no loud cheers, no banners waving in the air. Instead, there was a somber atmosphere that seemed to echo the pain of their victory. Yes, the Xelarians had been defeated. Yes, Earth was safe. But at what cost? Commander Walker, a voice called from behind, breaking Alex from his thoughts. It was General Mitchell, the leader of Earth's defense forces. Your bravery and leadership have saved this planet. For that, we will always be grateful. Alex nodded, his eyes focused on the ground. It was a team effort, General, he replied, his voice quiet but firm. We couldn't have done it without the Viridians. Mitchell smiled slightly but could tell that Alex's thoughts were far from celebratory. You led them, Commander. You led all of us. Despite the accolades, Alex felt a deep emptiness inside. As he walked through the military base and toward his quarters, he couldn't help but notice the quiet expressions of his fellow soldiers, their faces lined with exhaustion and grief. They had fought a hard war, and many of them had lost friends, just like him. Their victory had come at a price, and though Earth was saved, the emotional scars would take much longer to heal. In the days that followed, the Earth's leadership began the process of rebuilding. Cities that had been destroyed by the Xelarians' relentless attacks were slowly coming back to life, as engineers and workers from both human and Viridian factions worked tirelessly to restore the damage. The Viridians, though not trusted fully by all humans, had proven their loyalty during the war, and their advanced technology was instrumental in helping Earth recover. But despite the joint efforts, a sense of weariness lingered. Alex and his fellow soldiers were celebrated, but the grief of the fallen was impossible to ignore. Memorials were erected for the brave men and women who had given their lives in defense of humanity. Sarah's name was among them, etched in stone as a reminder of the ultimate sacrifice she had made. Alex often found himself standing in front of Sarah's memorial, staring at the inscription that bore her name. It was a small, simple tribute to the woman who had given everything for the greater good. It didn't feel like enough. There were no words that could adequately honor her sacrifice, no ceremony that could convey the depth of loss he felt. She was gone, and with her, a part of his heart had been shattered. Yet he knew she would want him to carry on. She wouldn't want her sacrifice to be in vain. One evening, as Alex walked away from the memorial, his gaze was drawn to the stars. They sparkled above him, an endless expanse of darkness filled with distant possibilities. Humanity had faced its greatest threat and survived. But the universe was vast, and who knew what other dangers might lie ahead? The peace they had won might be temporary. The Xelarians were only one of many alien factions in the galaxy, and if they hadn't already realized that humanity wasn't to be trifled with, they would soon learn. Alex's thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. You've been staring at those stars for hours. He turned and saw General Mitchell approaching, his face more serious than Alex had ever seen it. It's the future, isn't it? Alex said, his voice tinged with uncertainty. What comes next? Mitchell nodded, understanding the weight of the question. We rebuild, we prepare, and we stay vigilant. The Xelarians might have been defeated, but there are others out there, and we don't know what they'll do. We've shown them that humanity can fight back. We've shown them that we can survive, no matter the odds. Alex's gaze hardened. We'll make sure they know never to underestimate us. Mitchell smiled. That's the spirit. You're a true leader, Commander. I believe you're the one who will lead humanity into this new era. Alex took a deep breath. The battle was over, but the war for Earth's place in the universe was just beginning. Humanity had proven its strength, and it would continue to prove it. The alliance with the Viridians was only the beginning of a new era of cooperation, one where Earth would not just survive, but thrive. As the two men stood in silence, looking out at the stars, Alex knew that the future held both dangers and opportunities. But one thing was certain: humanity would face whatever challenges came its way with strength, resilience, and determination. Earth would never be vulnerable again. And so, as Alex stood there, His mind racing with the possibilities of what was to come, he whispered to the stars above him, to anyone who might be listening, "Don't touch humans." The message was clear, not just to the enemies of Earth, but to the universe itself. Humanity was no longer a weak, insignificant species. They had faced the greatest threat imaginable, and they had come out victorious. No matter what the future held, they would always fight back. They would always protect their own. With that final thought, Alex turned away from the stars, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fight was over for now, but humanity's journey was far from finished, and he, along with the rest of humanity, would be ready.